the 156th day of class, and today's class was about communism in China and how it played into the Cold War narrative. And we started class with a thought exercise, a hypothetical, a brainstorm. I said, let's pretend America becomes collectivized or communist. How do the schools change? How does the media change? How does the job market change? And what happens to the farms? Now, of these four, people were focused on the schools because I think it's the most relatable. So hypothetically, if we collectivize the grades, all right, so no more A's, B's, C's, or D's. Everybody has the same average, say 75%. That's an average grade. Would there be less incentive to work at this point? And most people said yes. People said uniforms. People said a lot of classes would stay the same. Math the same, science the same. They said history definitely would change. It would basically be, hey, America is right, America is good, do what we tell you, obey, not free thought. And for the most part, people said schools would be worse because schools wouldn't be about, finding out what you're passionate about or free thinking or this sort of thing. It's essentially fall in line and obey. Now, how does the media change? People spoke of how cool it is to live in this day and age where we have tremendous choice on what we watch. And it's cool that we can do that. We have a First Amendment. But in a collectivized system, people said we'd have very limited options, if not just one source of media to disseminate what the government wants you to know and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and to create obedient little puppets. And that's how they said the media would change. Now, how would the job market change? Now, a lot of people profess to want to have a real heavy-duty job, a high-paying job. Well, that takes training, that takes education, that takes work. Now, in a communist collectivized regime, the government official would say, okay, you're good at this, you're going to do that, you're going to do that, you're going to do that, and you all get paid the same amount. It's going to change the way we think about the job market. People aren't seeking out employment and better employment to make money. Really, it's coercion. You will do this. Now, for the farms, people didn't talk about this too much. I mean, don't have a single farmer in the room, never have actually. But here's the question. If you were a farmer and you have this land, what are you going to grow? Now, most people said, well, whatever's going to make the most amount of money, which makes sense. Or if the demand is low, I'm going to make something that makes a lot of money. Here's the thing. If you bust your hump, work 14-hour days and grow a lot of that product, you'll make a lot of money. There's your incentive. Now, in collectivization, they tell you what to grow. They're going to take it from you. There's no motivation to do more. So hopefully you were able to wrap your mind about collectivization. Here's a modern example of this in terms of the media of the four things. Now, I took this from The Economist. There's my source. And of the tested internet sites, you can see a good portion are blocked. Most of them is political. You can't watch your own news that you want to watch, or it's maybe has a pro-democracy bias. Now, the word prurient is, filthy, vile stuff that's on the internet. I mean, some people said, okay, I get this. And then there's another. But it's restricted in a communist regime, and to this day it still is. And we read an article where it stated Chinese citizens are kind of grateful to not have access to all of the internet. And you can see a picture of these Chinese people expressing this, and here is the source. And we read it in class, and we did it very serious, and a lot of people believed it, even though it was an absolute satire. There was nothing real. It's from The Onion, one of my favorite sites, by the way. And people were a little bit embarrassed to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe, how did I believe that? Well, I gave it to you, and you trusted your teacher to give you a reputable source. You have to question that. Also, people said it looked official. It looks like all the other worksheets and readings that we do. I made it very serious. We popcorned it and, read it out loud and made a big fuss about it. Hey, take a moment. Take a historiography moment. Good source, bad source. What is the source? I was very pleased. I had somebody earlier in the day say, what source did you get this from? And they caught me. The red flag went up. They knew I was full of hooey, and they called me on. I said The Onion. They caught it with satire. Read beyond. If it sounds too outrageous, it's probably outrageous. And there were some outrageous things in that article. Check the author. Who wrote it? Is it a reputable author? Supporting sources. Anything to back it up? Is it a joke or is it serious? Check the date. Does it make sense? Check your biases. Does this seem ridiculously biased one way or the other, and ask the experts, okay? So hopefully that was a little bit of a lesson to check your sources. But on to the history now. Now, as for the story of communism in China, it begins in 1949, and the Chinese Communist leader Mao Zedong declared the creation of the People's Republic of China. Now, this announcement ended the costly full-scale civil war between the Chinese Communist Party and the Nationalist Party. These nationalists left China and went to Taiwan. So this is where the story begins, right in the heart of the Cold War. Post-World War II, and China's definitely in the mix in the Cold War story. Now, it's led by this man, Mao Zedong. Now, Mao Zedong lived a long life. He lived to be a very old man. He was the principal Chinese Marxist theorist, a soldier, a statesman, who led his country's communist revolution. Mao was the leader of the Chinese Communist Party from 1935 till his death in 1976. And he was chairman or chief of state of the People's Republic of China from 49 to 59. Now, how he did it was something called the Long Walk, where there you go, there's truth in everything. A long walk and got the peasants on board with communism. Communism doesn't work with people who are doing well. But if you have nothing, having a little bit is better than nothing. That's the simplest way to explain communism. And in addition to getting the peasants on his side, if you disagreed with him, he took you out. It's guesstimated that he killed 500 to 600,000 of his enemies that stood in his way to gain power. But he is the face of Chinese communism, then and now. And he had two major initiatives. Initiative number one was called the Great Leap Forward from 1958 to 1960. Now, the Great Leap Forward was a campaign undertaken by the Chinese Communists between 58 and 60 to organize its vast population, especially in large-scale rural communities, to meet China's industrial and agricultural problems. What that means is that Mao Zedong said, hey, within your house, grow a garden. Within your house, create something, manufacture something. But the quality was not there. And instead of having profit be the motive and forcing people to do this, it was an absolute disaster. It's estimated 55 million Chinese people lost their life in this initiative. Of course, the propaganda poster looks great. Rosy-cheeked kids and happy people, life is good, life is not guy on a rocket ship. I get a kick out of that, especially when you juxtapose that with 55 million people dying. So, Great Leap Forward, yet another failure of communism. They keep on coming because communism does not work. I think history's proven that. Now, the second big initiative Chairman Mao initiated was in '66, where he launched the Cultural Revolution in order to reassert his authority over the Chinese government. Now, he believed that the current communist leaders were getting soft. They were heading in the wrong direction. So he had the nation's youth try to get rid of the impure elements. Now, they were encouraged to rat out their parents, relatives, teachers, anybody who didn't get into the spirit of the revolution. Now, these books that are in their hands are called a Little Red Book. And you had to have that book on you. That was the book you read. And these are the proletariat, the communist proletariat, getting anything that's bourgeois or bourgeoisie. Some people say bougie. It comes from that word. To get rid of these elements and to make a pure communist China. Yet again, it was a failure. Economic calamity. The economy just went down the tubes, and 1.5 million people were purged in this revolution. Yet Mao Zedong ruled until the 70s. I was alive when he was in power, which is a crazy thought to think about. Now, to end today, what was China's role in the Cold War? Now, oftentimes people say it's Russia or USSR versus America. Those are the two heavy hitters. But China was a communist nation, and America didn't quite know what to make of it. President Nixon did visit China in the early 70s to try to forge some economic things. So it wasn't as tense as Russia, but it was still a scary nation, this enormous, highly populated communist nation. And they supported the North Koreans during the Korean War to the north, and America supported the South. And that residue and that tension remained. And there was something in this country called the Red Scare, fear of communism. Senator McCarthy, you're a communist, trying to root out communism. And you can see here in this old comic book, here are the bad guys: Poland, Hungary, North Korea, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, and of course, China, 1960. The propaganda keeps on coming. So hopefully you understand collectivization. Hopefully you understand the story of communism in China. And I appreciate you watching.